Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough. It is time for the extras! Now, once you beat the game, you will unlock stuff. You also unlock stuff for, well, extra stuff for getting all the treasures, getting all the relics, all that sort of thing. Now, basically, you have loads of concept art. You have 44 pieces of wonderful concept art right now, which is what we are looking at presently. I do wish that you could, zoom into these. It's the same problem that I've had with, I think, pretty much every single Tomb Raider game by Crystal Dynamics where they've had this. Because some of it is beautiful, and you really want a nice close-up look, and they don't provide it to you, which is really irritating. But if you want to kind of just have a pause, just experience the glory of some of this stuff, then you can do. And you may be thinking, oh dear God, this is incredibly long for a bunch of extras. Don't worry, it's not going to be quite so terrifying. There is about 4 minutes of going through this stuff, then we're going to look at the journal entries that Lara makes throughout the game. That's going to take up the main body of the part, and then I'm going to show you the alternate ending. Just kind of starting from the proper end of the game, and then we will end with what could have been the ending of the game. And looking through all of this concept art, I have to once again iterate that I do absolutely adore it when games give you concept art to look at. Because it's always fascinating to see where their ideas started and what they transformed from. I mean, if you look at, Natla there, that was quite a marked transformation to her final design. I'm not quite sure what led them to the change, but there we go. And you also get kind of a nice, very interesting look at some of the enemies, and also, because one of the things that I found in-game is that you really don't notice what the thralls look like. It's just like, oh my god, it's a thrall. You don't really notice that you have different thralls in different locations. So you have the Mayan thrall, you have the Knight English thrall, and you have the Viking thralls and all that. So that's not something that you tend to notice in-game, so it's nice to see kind of the concept art behind it. Now, the one thing that has slightly disappointed me is my own fault, and I've mentioned it numerous times, is that because I haven't beaten the game on Master Survivalist mode, I don't have access to the final bit of extras, which is storyboards. Which I believe are storyboards for the cinematics. I'm not sure quite how they work, but they are there. You can also look at the previously on Tomb Raider video, which you will have seen right at the start of this walkthrough. It was like what I opened on, and then you can see the teaser trailer, which is basically just the opening of the game, and also you can watch the credits again if you like. Not sure why you'd want to though, but they are there if you want to. And now, it is time to have a look at these journal entries. Now, as I said, oh gosh, I think it was in Beneath the Ashes. The journal entries were by Richard Croft, and they basically give you hints as to what you're meant to do. I mean, it practically lays it all out for you. And similarly, the objective / hint stuff in Lara's Shadow does exactly the same thing, but also has the doppelganger commenting on things. The journal entries in the actual game, which is something that you are probably never going to look at. I mean, what is the point? I mean, like, because you're playing the game, why do you need to have a look at this stuff? I mean, heck, the need to go into the menu at all is minimal. The only times I ever really used it were to just check my treasure and relic count, just in case I was a little bit worried that I hadn't picked everything up, or to change a secondary weapon when I just didn't have enough ammo in the weapon I had at that moment in time, and I thought, well, I might as well just get another powerful weapon out just in case I get into combat soon. So other than those two things, there is no need at all to go into the menu. And so the chances of anybody looking at the journal is incredibly small. But what is really cool is that, because this is Lara commenting on everything as she sees it, it also makes a lot of references back to Tomb Raider Legend and Tomb Raider Anniversary, because you get the mention of Amanda getting buried in the Peruvian tomb of the Queen of Tiwanaku, and then Natla, Queen of Atlantis. So, I mean, if you haven't played any of the earlier Tomb Raider games, this is really helpful background information. Like, really helpful. I mean, it's also slightly, very spoilerific. But that happens when you have the final game in a trilogy. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? Now, I have to say, one thing that does frustrate me sometimes, it's a thing that some video games do and some don't, is when you are in a menu or whatever, and there's no music at all. Like, it just cuts out. It's really depressing. It's nice just to have a nice little tune, either the song of the level that you're in just slightly muted out. I mean, I think that does happen in some of the later levels. I think I was just in a slightly dodgy place without music when I started looking at this. But yeah, it just gets dull. So hopefully you can survive on my blatherings to get you through this. I mean, I'm hoping you're reading it, because there is some interesting stuff in here. The fact that you'd never really normally look at it is besides the point. I think that it's certainly worth reading, and it's very interesting, and it's something that I'm quite glad that they continued through into the reboot. Although they made it a lot better there, because it was, you examine the artifacts and then Lara comments on them. And there's also kind of backstory letters and journals and stuff. So that side of things is a nice extension of this, I think. Obviously, I have quite a lot of criticisms of the reboot these days, but that is not one of them. I think that's an actually quite awesome improvement. And I do kind of sort of wish that they had thought of doing that sooner, but oh well. Now I should point out that after you have beaten Tomb Raider Underworld, you can then go back into the levels in a mode called Treasure Hunt. It's, as you can probably tell by the name, its entire purpose is to locate those missing bits of treasure that you may not have found on your journey. And I believe that you can jump between levels if you so choose to. I'm not quite sure how it properly works, but it's certainly there if you want to do it. Obviously, I've shown you how to get every single treasure and every single relic in one run, so it's kind of a bit of a pointless mode. But for those people who haven't used a guide and are literally just enjoying the game at their own pace, if they ever want to locate those treasures, they can do so in that mode. Now, I will point out that when I was starting this walkthrough, there was it's a slightly worrying glitch that can occur where you start a new game, and if you have collected all the treasures before, then sometimes none of the treasures will appear in your new story mode. Which is not pleasant. Because it means then you're like, I want to get everything, why can't I? And that's just sad. I don't know how you fix that, but I was very lucky that I wasn't affected by it. And to be perfectly honest, I'm very lucky that I haven't been affected by any of the glitches, or the major glitches that can occur in this game. Because I was very worried that I would suffer them. But I managed to avoid it, and I'm very, very grateful that happened. Because that would have made recording this game a much bigger pain than it's probably worth. And especially considering that I have been looking forward to recording Tomb Raider Underworld for so long. I mentioned this, I think, much earlier on in the walkthrough. I think it was around the time of Amanda's ship. Like the first time we visited it. Like, I've been wanting to cover this game since I started doing commentary. I mean, I'm glad I've left it till now, because it meant that I got to experience and record Tomb Raider Legend and Tomb Raider Anniversary, which I'm so glad I finally got to play, because it's more Tomb Raider, and it's more Tomb Raider that I have come to really, really enjoy, in spite of their flaws. But I think if I had attempted to do Tomb Raider Underworld, then I would have been screwed. I mean, I've only just about managed to get through this with my sanity. It's a debatable point. You may have thought that I completely lost my sanity many parts ago. It seems to be a running trend with whenever I do commentaries. Get towards the end and then you're just like, I've run out of things to say. I can't find any more information. What the hell am I going to do? But we have reached the end, thankfully. There's still another 7-ish minutes of journals for you to glance over, but this is the final part of the game, and I am just so incredibly thankful that I've got to come back to this game. Because, potentially, it would never have happened. Because there are so many games that I have wanted to cover on this YouTube channel. And really, quite a few of them have sprung up over the past couple of years. It's like all new games where it's just like, I really would like to quite cover that. But not many of them have been there since the very beginning of me setting up a YouTube channel. I mean, if you look all the way back in my first channel intro, Tomb Raider Underworld's there. It's always been in my mind as being something I wanted to cover. And I mean, I think playing the reboot really instigated that desire in me. I think that was pretty much what spurred me on to look at Legend and to look at Anniversary. Because it was just something new, but also very familiar to look at. And here's the point where Aetir gets mentioned. It's never mentioned in dialogue at all, but they do call it Aetir here. And I really like that it's also then linked to Amrita and Ambrosia. And I have to say, I literally cannot hear the words or read the words Ambrosia without thinking of Professor Layton and the Eternal Diva. Because that is the name of the mythical kingdom that that Desolé tries to resurrect. Which, it's slightly bonkers that that's what my mind turns to, because really what my mind should probably turn to is Ambrosia Custard, because that is the name of a brand of custard in the UK. I think they also do sell other sort of goods. But the brand name is Ambrosia. And really that's probably what I should think of if I was a slightly more normal human being who wasn't completely obsessed with video games. But I mean, that also does throw up another, the fun fact of this trilogy of Tomb Raider games pulls together so many different religions and mythologies, and actually does it in a very successful way, as I said in the main body of the walkthrough. And that instance of mentioning Aetir and saying it's very similar to Amrita and Ambrosia is just another instance of that. And I think, I'm just really hugely impressed that they did so well with the idea of the monomyth, because there are a lot of monomyths in our culture. Noah's Ark, that is... You look across so many different mythologies, there is some form of the Noah's Ark myth. There is... Well, there's always a creation myth, that's a given. But, like, the Noah's Ark, that happens again and again and again. Obviously, there was the King Arthur and the magic sword, and magic swords do tend to recur across things. And so, the fact that this game went the whole hog and pulled them all together, it's brilliant. I actually cannot think of a single game that even attempts to discuss that type of topic. I mean, generally you get the stuff where, oh my god, there's loads of different gods about. It's like you have the Christian gods, you have the Hindu gods, you have Buddhism and all of that. And you have them all in the same game, and they're interacting, and... Cool. That's not dealing with monomyths, that's just saying that all of the religions are correct and exist in the same universe. The monomyths are stories that are somehow very deeply ingrained in our narratives and in our stories, despite the fact that they are in so many different cultures. Like, there is no way, at least I don't think there is a way, that, like, Japan could have some of the same myths as, like, England. And yet, you look deep down, and there are similarities. I mean, and in saying that, like, if you go way, way back, it's like before people really had boats to travel on. Like, the world was small, and I think quite a lot of, well, a huge amount of myths do start, like, before the Greeks, well, the Greeks and the Egyptians are kind of seen as some of the oldest civilizations. Obviously you have Mesopotamia and stuff, but kind of, that's about as far back as we tend to go. And that's in I want to say hundreds BC. I'm probably completely wrong. But a lot of myths come from before that. And I'm pretty sure the Greeks didn't go to Japan. That's very far out of their way. So how on earth did all these myths exist? Well, how can they exist? Where did their source come from? Because if they're all so similar, they have to have had an identical source, which then begs the question, what is that source? And that is just an amazing question to ask. And I just love that this game decided to go there and ask that sort of question. But that is all of the journal entries. There's a lot, as you can tell. And this basically brings us to the end of the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough. This is the final extra that I'm going to show you, the alternate ending. Basically, it takes place immediately after Lara leaves the room in Nepal where they end up. And it's in the snow, and Amanda tries to kill Lara with a rock. Lara shoots her in the leg, and then leaves her to die as Amanda cries for help. Because obviously, Amanda is a cow. But so I'm glad that it got cut, because really it doesn't add anything. It resolves the conflict between Amanda and Lara, but that's the only thing it does. It's an even more disappointing end, potentially, than the one that we ended up with. I do wish there was a little bit more of a positive closure to the game. What we got was more positive than this alternate ending that you will see very, very shortly. But I do wish there was something a little bit better.
Mother must have tried to use it to escape, but didn't know how.
And I completely understand why they thought about having this ending.
Pulling out these artifacts always brings you here.
Because
what will happen if I'm already here?
it's a good idea. It's just it isn't something that fits the end of a game. Especially not the end of a Lara Croft Tomb Raider game. It's too grim. It's like it ends with Lara essentially being a murderer.
I can reach you
And that's it.
You trust me? We're out of time, Amanda.
But I suppose that as Amanda goes through this wonderful little animation, as I said before, I think I should probably sign off right about now and let you enjoy the alternate ending in all of its glory without me yammering over the top of it. So, I hope you've enjoyed these extras. I hope you have enjoyed all of the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough and have found it informative and learned something perhaps about ancient cultures, if you've managed to get through my incredibly dense mumblings. And I hope you will join me for my next playthrough or walkthrough, which will be beginning very, very soon. See you then. It's finally time. Well, we've finally closed the book on the Crystal Dynamics trilogy of Tomb Raider. Oh, this is a wonderful feeling. See you all next time.
So it's back to this, is it? What? You think we're even? Would killing me make us even? Goodbye, Mother. Rest in peace.